Hi, Mark here from the Tangent-Bound Podcast Network and host of the flagship show, the Tangent-Bound Podcast. Did you know that we over at Tangent-Bound are always looking for amazing podcasts to promote? And did you also know that we are also proud nerds and geeks of everything from movies, music, gaming, TV shows, and comic books to wrestling, MMA, soccer, and football? Whatever you can nerd or geek out about, we've got it. And if you're interested, we can help you find it. And if you're a show looking for a place to call home, we've got you covered. Side effects may include upset stomach, dizziness, tumors, shakes, and in some rare cases, death from excessive laughter. Though to be fair, it's only sometimes. Other side effects may include diarrhea, gallstones, heart palpitations, and strong desire for cookies on the dark side. Talk to your doctor and visit TangentBoundNetwork.com and see if Tangent-Bound Network is right for you.
This is a Danger Entertainment podcast. DangerEntertainment.net. Danger Entertainment Podcast Network.
Hey guys, this is Venice, and I've got a message from a friend of mine about my favorite podcast.
It's your boy, Flavor Flav in full effect. Check this out, everybody. I want y'all to go check out TJ.
What's good, everybody? TJ Johnson here for Voice from the Underground. I am the most handsome.
Big Has.
And I'm smoking my cigar, of course.
You know what I'm saying? The Dutch.
You pick me up in an Uber and a PT Cruiser, I'm calling Lyft.
Cause they be fighting the power, talking about social issues, politics, you know what I'm saying?
And we're not even that good.
Right, we're terrible. Terrible. Tangents all over the place.
And not only that, but they be keeping it fun with the sports, music, comics, and movies too.
Am I allowed to talk?
I think no, not right now.
Shut up, colonizer!
You know what I'm saying? He on Twitter at VFU Podcast. So you can find them. So check 1, 2. This is Flavor Flav. Yeah, boy.
Okay, what Flav was trying to say is, check out Voice from the Underground on your favorite podcast network.
Voice from the Underground.
We're not doctors, therapists, trained professionals of any kind, so if you feel you do need help, please reach out and get the help you need. We have a whole list of things on our files page over on Facebook at facebook.com/crazylifepodcast, and or just search on the internet for the suicide prevention hotline number, or go to NAMI.org or whatever resource you can find. But just please reach out for help if you need it. If you feel as though you're going to harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. And try not to be alone. Also, if you feel that way and you realize that you're writing a note or making plans of how you would do, like harm yourself or others, definitely reach out. That's a huge red flag. And lastly, please do not replace the idea of therapy with listening to this show. Again, if you need help, please reach out and get the help that you need, or contact us. We can try to help you find the help that you need.
Life sucks to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. Life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Welcome to the Crazy Life, everybody. My name is Jen, and I am your hostess for the evening. And Brian is currently trying to get me to crack up, and I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, but you almost forgot your name.
Almost.
Almost. It was so close.
Plus, I pulled out the old pull too, you know. So
yes,
yeah,
you did.
Yeah.
Well, with me as always, everybody, we have Brian and Henno. Hey guys.
Off to a fun start.
Hi.
As it should be.
Yeah.
Always about fun.
Yeah. Yep.
That was great.
If
you missed it, use the back button.
Yeah. What's really funny is normally I try to think of that podcast to mess you up, and I can never remember the name of it. Like, even when you did it, I couldn't remember the name of that show. I don't know why, I just cannot remember it. So terrible.
Yes, we actually did I used to do a podcast with another podcaster, my good friend Steve.
Who's on the Inner City Geeks podcast.
Yes, who's on Inner City Geeks podcast. Very fun, especially if you appreciate comic books and that genre of fun stuff. Yeah, so Brian always tries to get me to mess up the name of the show by throwing something out ahead of time, right before I start. So that was all that fun was about. But who would like to get us started this week?
Oh boy,
I will. So, because I had a roller coaster of a week, so nothing too crazy, but it was one of those weeks where I had ups, downs, and middles.
Bye.
The ups part, Monday was my birthday, so
hey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how I still people still are just trying to give me the business about oh, you're 41, you're getting old, blah blah, and I'm like, I don't care. You can't get me with that. I don't care. Have you not noticed? I've been making fun of myself and calling myself old since I was in my 20s. So it's you really can't do much to me at this point with it. But whatever. It's all in good fun. But so yeah, me and a few friends went out on Monday. Went to a pizza place I've been wanting to try out, and had some good pizza that's, because in this area, there's not a lot of, New York style pizza. So it was kind of cool. That's the type of pizza this place does. And, it was good. It was, we were really happy with it. Although the pieces were huge. I should have known better because, again, New York slices are usually large pieces of pizza because most people will grab one and go, kind of a thing, or whatever. And, I ordered 3 and immediately started, questioning my choices in life. But, but yeah, we had a good time there. Had a few beers with some friends, got to see a friend I haven't seen in a while, and a couple friends actually I haven't seen in a while, and have some good pizza and everything. And actually, I think I told this last week because we recorded right after I got home. I totally forgot about that. Yeah. Anyway, but if you missed last week's episode, so the week started there, and then most of the week was pretty meh, just whatever. But I went with my mom to a doctor's appointment, and I'm not going to tell the full story here because it takes forever, but I tell it on this week's Salty Language if you want to go listen to it. But the big takeaway from it was I was sitting in the waiting room while she went back, and I was trying to decide what to do while sitting there because I just didn't really feel like getting on Twitter, and I didn't really want to play games because that's just going to eat up all my data because I have a very small data plan for my phone. So I was like, well, what else can I do? And I was like, you know what? I think I have a book downloaded on my phone. So, and I do. It's a book, Everybody Lies is the name of it. And it's a really interesting read so far. About how, to sum it up, essentially, it's basically everybody lies to everyone in their life, essentially, but people don't tend to lie to Google. when they're doing their Google searches. You're at your most honest because you're searching for things you want actual answers to. So this guy who used to work for Google, or has worked with Google, is basically showing how there's correlation between certain things. And like basically how if you look at how people Googled around the time of Obama's election, you could predict that he was going to win. And basically you could do the same thing with Trump. And it's, fair warning if anyone goes to read it, there's some very, rough language in it because of the subject matter and stuff. But there was a lot going on around me. There's a woman next to me that was one of those, like, always talkers. Like, she just would not shut up. Like, and she was nice. It wasn't, like, annoying. It was just, there's a distraction right next to me, And then someone had a baby, so they're making noise with the baby. There's various just noises. Because, it's a waiting room. And anyway, I sat there during that time and got through 90 pages of that book. So, which, first of all, that's the most I've sat and read in a long time. Second of all, it's even bigger because I had all those distractions going on that I was able to focus, and to the point that I feel like I could talk about that book. Like, I feel like I could talk about the chapters, so I have retention, which made me feel really good because I haven't had the ability to focus and have retention when it comes to books in a while. So, it also helped that it's something that's right up, like, really grabbed my attention,
Yeah.
But still, I was, that is certainly my win for the week, is the whole, like, being able to do that. Now and not only that, but it wasn't just then. I've read a couple times since then, and I'm about a fourth of the way through the book. Because, I mean, by pages, I should say that it's, on your phone pages, which is different than, actual book. Because according to my phone, I think there's like 900 pages, and I've seen this book in real life, and there's not 900 pages. But I'm just past 200 pages through it, so that's felt pretty good because I really. It's one of those things where I've kind of beat myself up for not reading like I used to. Which is funny because I'm constantly consuming info on the internet. Like, if something piques my interest from a podcast or whatever, I immediately will pull it up on my phone and start reading about it. But I don't seem to give myself any credit for that. I'm still constantly thirsting for knowledge, Like, if you look at most of the podcasts I listen to, most of them are not comedy or goofy ones. Most of them are informative ones, And it's funny how I think it comes back to my whole... I've talked before about, like, how for a long time I didn't consider audiobooks like reading a book, even though realistically it is. Like, you're still consuming the knowledge. Who cares whether someone's reading it to you and you consume it, or you read it and consume it? And I think it's the same thing with podcasts versus reading, or reading smaller articles, instead of in-depth things. But either way, it felt really good. And I know it's still, for a lot of people, it's like, okay, that's not that much reading. And that's not. But for me, considering that in the past year, I've read all of 0 books, this is a big step. So there was that. And I told this... So also, I have to say that there was various moments during that time in the waiting room where my misophonia was triggered, and I still was able to keep my focus and keep reading. That's a huge step. Most people won't understand how big that is, but, like I texted somebody, like, there was a woman in there that was, I was describing it to Tony on the podcast about how it was basically like, how when you're in a quiet room and you're trying to open a bag of chips and you're trying to be quiet and you end up being louder than you'll ever be opening that bag? That's basically, this woman was like that, trying to root through her, get a bag of chips or something out of her purse. And then when she's getting into the bag, like, it was almost like there was one tiny chip in the corner of the bag that she absolutely couldn't get to. That's what you would swear by the sound, because it was just like that constant crinkle. And you know, and in my head, I'm like, get the chipper, like dump them in your face or something, you know, like I felt my rage going up, but I immediately put my tools into place, which was the meditation thing. Is like right then I was like, I felt my rage like really rocketing up. So it was like, okay, close your eyes, breathe, focus on the breath, let everything else exist. It doesn't affect you. All that matters is the breath, you know, like just going through that. And it, you know, then I opened my eyes, started reading my book again, and I was fine. So it was an amazing moment for me because, again, it was essentially I was in that moment. I wasn't worrying about the other stuff. Even though it was around me, it was more just like I almost felt like I was just being tested, you know, kind of a thing. Like, you know how like for a job or something, some jobs will be like, okay, we're going to put you in this scenario just to see how you react. And that's what I felt like was like somebody was in another room watching me with a clipboard and, you know, like, oh, well, he didn't get as mad as we thought. Okay. You know, like, all right, let's initiate the woman with the keyboard sound still on. Go. Oh, wow. Oh, he didn't get bothered by that either. Yeah. So
that's great.
Yeah. You know, and on top of that, I sat in the middle of the room, which I usually don't do. Like I told Tony on the other show, is like I usually I sit on an end because I don't want to be boxed in. Like I want to feel like I have an out, essentially. And I sat in the middle, and that waiting room filled up fast. Multiple times, and I'm right there in the middle. Like somebody, like at one point, a woman sat down right next to me. There was every other seat open, and she sits directly next to me. And I'm like, really? Like, but that's why I said the whole day just kind of felt like it was just, you know, like somebody was watching with a hidden camera. I was waiting for someone to jump out at some point, and be like, you know.
Cue the sit next to him person.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, wow, you didn't get bothered by that? Huh. Must be a good book. You know? It was...
Cue the close talker.
Yeah, that was the one thing I didn't have. She talked the whole time. Like, even she was playing some match 3 game, and she, like, was talking. Like, talking out her strategy while she was playing it and stuff, you know. That's why I said... And I wasn't going to get up and move because, it's, you know, that's just rude. You know, I didn't want to be that guy. Just be like, you know, like, and move, you know, like... So, and like I said, she was nice. It wasn't like she was being mean. She wasn't trying to be rude. She's just being who she is, you know, and at that moment, it's one of those, like, instead of being a jerk to try to get her to change her behaviors, it was like, you know what? There are things I can control to make things affect me less. And that's what I decided to go with instead. And again, there's the real win, but, you know, that and the reading. So, you know, the rest of the week was, you know. I posted this all over my social media. I was in Target, and I was down by their clearance stuff, and this woman with her 2 kids, and the 2 kids were, you know, they were just pretty much just being kids, whatever, no big deal. And then the one taps the mom or grabs her shirt. I don't remember which it was, but then she turns and looks, and when she does, this kid just rips the biggest, loudest fart.
Oh, jeez.
And she just looks at him, and she yelled his name, whatever his name was, kind of like Bradley or whatever. And he, and then he just looked at her, and he puts his hands together and just bows.
So funny.
And I lost it. I would laugh so hard. And she looked down at me and she was laughing too. And she just kind of shrugged like, what are you going to do? Like, it was, you know, like, that was so funny. Oh, man. Like he had just shown his respect for his opponent after he destroyed her, basically. It was
pretty much.
Oh man, I laughed so hard, and I needed that right then because I had been in 2 other stores previously where people were being jerkwads. So you know, I was kind of like walking through there anyway, and then that happens, and it was like one of those like I'm right where I need to be. You know, like I needed something to break that you know. That rag'em mood I was in, and that totally did it. So, but then this weekend, you know, like I told Tony, everything pretty much that I'm bothered by tended to flare this weekend, so that was a good time. And I didn't get to go to a beer fest with him and our friend T and whatnot, which I really wanted to go to because I haven't really had a chance to for us to do that in a while. So, you know, whatever. But it happens, and you know, and now here we are. So there's my lengthy week of activities, my ups and downs.
You have had quite the week.
Yeah, I told you it's very much been an up, down, and okay week. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I guess I will go next. I'll make you go last, Tenno.
Okay.
Make you go last. Wow. Dang.
See how it is?
You got told.
My week's been pretty uneventful. I mean, I'm back at work, of course, after vacation, which makes it all the more fun, trying to get yourself back acclimated to the routine. It's funny because when I'm on vacation, I kind of miss my routine. When I come back from vacation, I miss not having a routine.
Right.
So I can't be happy. No matter which way I go, I'm just not happy. But it is what it is. You know, I'm back to the daily grind and doing all that stuff. Something that did jump out at me actually just happened this evening, which is it's so tough because I don't have kids and neither do Brian and Henno, so you guys maybe can relate a little bit to this. I don't know. But I was thinking about things, and so much so that I actually even posted it just to get other people's thoughts on it. And not to go too far deep into an existential crisis or anything.
Right, because we'd never do that here.
No, not at all. But it just hit me today. I'm like, what's the point? You know, you go through the same motions every day. You get up, you go to work, you make your money, you pay your bills. You know, you throw a little bit of fun, you know, whenever you can into the whole mix. But, you know, like I said, I don't have kids. I have dogs that depend upon me. But other than my dogs, you know, and obviously my husband's my partner, so kind of depend upon each other a little bit. But other than that, you know, I don't have to do anything. It's like I don't have to get out of bed in the morning. Yeah, things would kind of spiral and fall apart and stuff, but you know, it just maybe I had too much time on my hands and I was bored and my brain was going in the opposite directions, but it kind of captured me. So
well, I listened to I can't remember what podcast it was. Someone had a similar conversation with themselves. When they were talking with the other person on the podcast, the other person basically was like, well, maybe you need to find a direction. Like maybe what you're realizing isn't that you're questioning life and blah, 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 but it's just that you haven't given yourself enough direction. And the guy said that he started volunteering, and after doing that, that gave him more of a sense of worth than before. So... You know,
and then there's always that option. You know, there's the sense of worth of giving back and
Oh, stuff. I'm not advocating doing anything good for anyone. I'm just, you know, no.
But you know, there's always that for sure, and that is always that's usually when I get to these points that I start looking at. Because we've talked about before getting too micro with your life and opening your life back up and adding more things to it. And I am getting close to probably at that point now that I need to start adding a little bit more to it. But I have to watch because if I make too big of a commitment, then I have a hard time upholding the commitment and then I'll get overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. So it's finding that happy balance, you know, doing 2 different podcasts. You know, I do podcasts usually Monday and Tuesday nights. Then I have Wednesday and Thursday nights by myself, kind of my own time. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, my husband's home because he works nights during the week. So we have to get caught up on chores chores and doing stuff. It just, and like this weekend, I mean, I had a very lovely weekend. My in-laws came over yesterday. A friend of ours came over today. You know, I did my normal chores, my grocery shopping, my, you know, touching up around the house.
Every time you say chores, I just think of, like, you know, you're baling hay and you're, you know, feeding the livestock and milking the cows.
You know me. You know these princess hands don't do that type of hard work.
Well, that's the thing, is I know exactly what you mean. It's just for some reason, you know, the word chores just, well, especially after watching Letterkenny, you know, when he works a farm and he's like, oh, back to choring, and he's off to do those kind of things. So, yeah.
You know, it's just, so, I mean, it's not like I didn't do anything. It's not like I Netflixed it all weekend, and which, as we've talked about, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you need. But I don't know. I guess maybe it's getting a little stale. Maybe I need a little more spice.
Yeah, it could be, you know.
So just kind of thinking about just different ways of doing that without overcommitting, and that's my fear, because I already have the 2 big commitments during the week.
Well, you know what you do, I would think, is, especially to start with, would be, if you're going to try to put something else in your life, pick something that you can only, for lack of a better term, you can only let yourself down. You know, like if you were like, hey, once a week I'm going to, I don't know what, go for a walk in the park. Just throwing anything out there to where, like, if you don't show up, no one cares. Like, you're not ruining anyone's day. You're not, you know, that kind of a thing, versus, you know, like, I'm going to go read to kids every week, you know, or, you know, something like that, you know, like maybe that's where you start to kind of help yourself get over your commitment issues.
But holding myself accountable, not my
well, no. That's my point, is so that if you don't do it, you won't beat you don't have to beat yourself up over it, because you're just like, okay, I didn't do that this week, you know.
This is true.
Yeah.
So there are some different options that I can pass, I can go down. But I did find it was an interesting question, because I followed it up with what's the point? What makes you get up in the morning? Or what helps you get up in the morning? And I think that's probably the better question than even what's the point, is what's your motivation to get out of bed, to wake up and to get moving? And, you know, a lot of times people say kids, because kids are a very motivating factor in a person's life.
Yeah, you really have to get up, because some of, you know, especially depending on their ages, because they can't feed themselves or, you know, whatever. Right. So, yeah.
You know, there's a lot of responsibility there, and there's a lot of, you know, risk and reward.
Yeah. Well, that's why pets, you know, can be helpful too, for the same reason, you know.
Yes.
Because, you know, if you don't get up, then, you know, they won't eat, basically. So yeah. I mean, my pets are you know, pretty dependent upon me, obviously, and so there's always that too. Yeah.
But that being said, you know, I just want to make sure everyone knows that, I mean, I'm not in a, you know, dark place and you have to worry about me or anything at this point. I don't want to get that misconstrued. I'm just kind of looking at things a little differently and asking some difficult questions.
There's 2 ways you can ask what's the point.
Yeah.
Because you can say it from a philosophical standpoint, to where you're open to discussion of what is the point, like, why are we doing this? And then there's the what's the point in a defeative, kind of situation, to where you're just like, meh, you know, like, why bother? You know, and that's not, you're not asking it from that perspective. So, at least I hope not. You didn't seem to be.
No.
Yeah.
And the other thing I want to talk about is, you know, it's been brought to light. A friend of mine is going through some pretty heavy duty rough stuff. And the other night, she wasn't, you know, she didn't intend to do anything. It just kind of happened, where she mixed some medicine and some alcohol. And it wasn't like she set out to cause any harm to herself or anybody else, but it was a potential really bad situation that she ended up finding herself in. She's fine. Everybody's fine. it all worked out well. So, that's all well and good. But I just kind of wanted to throw that out there. Is there just a reminder because a lot of times we take for granted and we forget the potency sometimes of the medicine that we take and how it interacts with alcohol.
Yeah.
And it's so easy sometimes to just, man, I'm hurting. I'll just have another pill. Man, this tastes good. I'll just have another drink.
Yeah.
And one thing leads to another, and you find yourself in a really bad spot. And sometimes there's no coming back from that bad spot. So just be careful.
Yeah.
Just be very careful and make sure you're aware of the choices you're making.
I would also say that if you find yourself in a place where you're open to that being a good idea, you should talk to someone else. Like, you should get help, if you can. Not to make, be overly dramatic or anything about it, but like you said, it doesn't take much to go from almost too much to overdose.
Yeah.
Like if you really talk to like pharmacists and whatever, or anyone, knowledgeable of drugs and alcohol and whatever, it's like a lot of times the difference between a legal dose and an overdose is very tiny, especially if you mix alcohol involved. So, be, like you said, if you realize that you're at that point, then please, at least keep someone else informed. At least tell a friend or whatever so that they can check in on you or whatever and stuff. So even, because again, unfortunately there's a lot of people who didn't intend to die from something that they've done. I mean, today would have been the 30th birthday of my nephew who probably didn't intend to kill himself when he, took some heroin. And, unfortunately that one time was it. So, just be aware of it. And I'm not using heroin in that situation. I'm no matter what it is, whether it's, hell, it could be Tylenol and alcohol, that you could have, and not just like kill you side effects, but could like really be bad for your kidneys or liver or whatever. So, just like you said, try to be as smart as you can. If you're if you're in those kind of positions, those are the last two things you should be, getting around if possible. Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of put that out there to the universe. And, I'm so thankful that everything worked out the way it did for her. And, and she is getting lots of help. So,
Good.
Just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
But she's got professional help as well as a lot of friends and people surrounding her. So things are going good for her. But
good.
It could be, it doesn't have to be prescription. It can be over the counter stuff too. Like you mentioned, Tylenol.
Yep.
It's so easy, you don't intend anything. You kind of forget yourself. You forget what's going on and you just don't think through the consequences. So just be careful out there.
Yep.
So, Hanno, how are you?
Yeah, now that Jen brought us all down. No. I'm kidding. Actually, no, if anything, you didn't really bring it down. I mean, the fact that everything's okay with her, is actually really good news. Because that easily could have been a real down story. So, yeah.
Yeah, and if you ever just want to hang out with sober people, find out where your local. There's an AA hotline in every town.
Nice.
Yeah. You don't have to go and become part of the cult to go hang out with sober people.
Right.
It's just true. You go to you pop into wherever they do meetings. Say you're having a bad day. What are you guys doing tonight? Chances are they're going out to dinner afterwards, or going for some coffee or something like that, or somebody will go do it with you.
Yeah.
You don't have to sign up. You don't have to prick your finger and give your blood and and do the secret handshake.
No firstborn, nothing.
Yeah, none of that stuff.
Right.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Right.
No,
that's on the second visit. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. That's when we get you.
Right, the free trial is over at that point. I get it. Yeah. No, of course,
you get one freebie.
Yeah. Of course, we're just
us, okay?
Of course we're just kidding, making light of it. But yeah, seriously, that's a great point. That's something I hadn't thought about. You're right. There is always something like that.
People do it all the time.
Mm-hmm.
We literally have. I've seen someone for a month and then they never come back again.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or 2 months or 3 months. They weren't even alcoholics.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe they identified as something else, but during that time they had an issue and they need to be around sober people.
Yeah,
it's
because
fine.
if nothing else, yeah, exactly. Because if you're around that kind of situation, like you're around sober people, there's not going to be, there shouldn't be anyway, alcohol, drugs, things that can make you go down a really bad path at the wrong time, So, yeah, if that's what you need, then yeah, that's a great answer too. I never thought about that, but that's a really good point, Hannah.
Yeah, chances are you'll probably be less likely to grab a drink while you're around those people.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that you guys are open to that. That
that it isn't like checking membership cards at the door. Yeah.
And I think that's a really important point to put out there into the universe, because so often we think that when a group is very specific in what they gather for, you kind of think, oh, if I don't fit that mold, then I don't belong there.
Or I'm going to get pressured into admitting I'm something I'm not, or, I don't want to lie to them, or, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to deceive anybody in thinking that, I have a problem when I don't have this problem, but, yeah, it's really awesome. It's an awesome thing to put out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it really, as long as you're honest, as long as you walk into that room, and there's always, in every meeting, it starts, and let me first preface, there's something that's called an open meeting, and there's something that's called a closed meeting. And they're different in every community. However, if there's a brochure, or if you call the hotline, and this goes for any of the 12-step groups, any of them, and you ask, looking for an open meeting, particularly because those are where family and friends can go to.
Okay.
A closed one, the idea of being a closed meeting is that's for people with that issue.
Okay.
So you don't walk in. I mean, in our community, it's different. Somebody walks in. If somebody needs a meeting really bad, and let's say they have a pill problem. Let's say that's their thing, is, it's addiction. There's no NA meeting around. They really need to go to be part of a 12-step meeting. They walk into a closed meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous, which means you should identify as an alcoholic, not as an addict.
Right.
But when they say, "Hey, are there any newcomers here?" You say, "Yeah, I typically go to NA meetings, but I need a 12-step meeting tonight, or I just need to be around sober people, or anything."
Yeah, because really, that is the one place that, like, if somebody walked in and they were like, "Hey, look, I have an addiction problem. I just need to be around sober people tonight," you guys are all gonna understand.
Yeah,
you're brethren at that point, essentially, because even though it's a different substance. You're still in the somewhat same mindsets.
Now, you might be asked not to share.
Yeah.
That's a possibility. Every community is different.
Yeah.
We're so small, we don't care.
Yeah.
We've had women walk into our men's group, not realizing that it's a men's meeting, and say, literally take a seat, and we're all looking, and then the person will eventually, and then they'll be like, "Oh, this is men's night, isn't it?" Get up, and it's like, no, usually somebody goes, they usually go walking out the hallway, and somebody goes and gets them and says, do you need to be in a meeting tonight? And if the person says yes, it's like, come on in,
exactly. Which is great. That really is how it should be. I mean, like you said, even if you were in a position where, like, I just needed a meeting, and they were just like, okay, but, this is this, blah, 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 can you not share? I wouldn't even be offended by that kind of a thing. I'd just be like, cool, I'll go sit in the corner, essentially, and be quiet. I just need this, you know? Yeah.
And they'll say you can talk to somebody later. Someone will always come and talk to you.
Sure.
And like I said, there's always a large, especially in larger cities, there's typically what they call a birthday meeting, where they hand out all the sobriety anniversaries, whatever they do, whether it's chips or the various things. Those meetings can be huge.
I imagine
in some cities.
Yeah.
If you want to just see what one's about, just go to one of those. You can hide in the back. Now, I'm not saying someone ain't going to see you hiding in the back and come talk to you.
Yeah.
However, it is absolutely up to you.
I would imagine, like, maybe I'm not, you can answer this for me from your experience, is I would imagine that there's probably a lot of times where somebody wants to just come and kind of hide in the back just to kind of check out the meeting and see what it's about before, like, okay, I'm going to do this. Like, I just want to see what's going on here.
Yeah.
You know,
anybody can go to these things. I mean, really, it's truly, there's, like I said, with some exceptions, and it's usually they call them closed meetings for a reason.
Sure.
They'll let you know if it's closed.
That's
or not.
understandable.
But,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's just like we talk about with the with the doctors and things like that. It's like, go get the estimate.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know,
Yep.
no one's gonna pressure you in it. And I'll tell you what, if somebody does, then what's the worst thing that happens? You say no, thank you, and turn around and walk away. You know?
Yeah, and you wouldn't have to go again. Yeah, exactly.
You don't.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yep.
But speaking of sobriety, I had this story just trips me out. My neighbors across the street where I grew up, Bill and Martha have been retired forever and ever and ever and ever. And it was weird how I didn't get sober until I moved up to Idaho. And even then, I would go home all the time. And it was probably it must have been around the time that I met Sharon that I found out that Bill and Martha had both been sober for decades.
Oh, really?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I had no idea. And I was living right across the street. I mean, some of my biggest drinking happened, when I was at that house.
Yeah, wow.
Periods of my life where I was struggling with alcoholism, happened while, part of my family being in California. And here, these, someone that I basically had, known. So I don't remember when Bill bought the house, but it's at least my high school, even probably before that, lived across the street, been sober for decades, had no idea. And so they go, Bill loves to fly fish and golf, and this is a great place to go fly fish and golf. So they usually come up here every other year, and the four of us go and have dinner in town, and it's always a really great time. And so this have gone twice, two years in a row. They have a friend that they go see in Montana, and who's getting up in age, and so they decided to go, do the trip year after year. And what's really wild is there a lot of people, and I kind of see myself heading to this point where there's a lot of people who do sobriety in their own way.
Mm-hmm.
They find, some people really feel something rigorous and very much adhering to how they got sober to begin with is what they need. Some people not so much. Some people find a new way. And, Bill I thought was very brave. He had back issues and realized that he had been taking painkillers for the wrong reasons. And he restarted his sobriety.
Wow.
Which I think is extremely brave. A lot of people have a difficult time with that, especially after they've been sober for decades.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he said, no, I didn't take a drink. He still has not had a drink for decades.
Right.
But he looked at what was going on inside of his head and said, you know what? It's time to start over.
Yeah.
And he's doing it a whole new way. So there's a famous, it's like a wellness meditation center out in Marin County called Spirit Rock. And it's all over the world, people have heard about this place. And again, I grew up near this. I drove past it all the time when I was a kid. Never knew what it was. And he's been going out there and has taken on a really strong meditation practice. And it's really tripped because he's a retired San Francisco firefighter. And one of the things that was really funny was Martha had kind of was like giving him a hard time about never telling, his buddies about his meditation. And I started laughing, and I'm like, well, yeah. I mean, you start talking to a bunch of San Francisco firefighters about, well, I'm doing meditation now.
Yeah. It'd be funny though, is if he did start telling them, and they all just, by the end of it, they're all just comparing meditation stories,
Well, some of them he has, but he knows who those.
Right.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like the other firefighter that he, whatever used, that is now sober too. Boom. They'll go on a retreat together.
Okay. Right.
He's talking about, but like the rest of them don't necessarily know. And I even knew the response that I came up with isn't appropriate for this podcast. It has something to do with, what are you driving, a Prius now?
Yeah.
Which is amusing, but it's really a high point of mine. Every time that they come around, it's really a high point because I've shared this a bunch of times. It's being around someone that has been through what you've been through. You're on the same kind of journey. You're on the same kind of path. And it kind of relates to what you're talking about, Jen, is like, sometimes it is like, what's the point? What is the point? Well, I'll tell you one thing that I love about sobriety is that I do have a purpose, and that is to help.
Yeah.
If I can.
Yeah.
And my path has never been, it just hasn't been to be actively involved. I've been able to help out in other ways, whether it's just, a friend of a friend, somebody calls me, right place, right time, whatever it is. But it is great to still have this. I still have a purpose, and I bring it here every week now. This is part of it for me, is that I am always available to talk about sobriety, and that gives me a purpose. If I can help somebody, I'm ready to do so.
Yeah.
And part of that, I think, is keeping myself in a good place spiritually. And so 2 podcasts ago, when I was feeling a little out of like perspective, I guess. I wasn't feeling the right size for the situation.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that changed this week. I felt very useful. We had a lot of stuff happen at work that was not good. Just leak. This is not water pouring down someone's, and just feeling like I can jump in and do what I'm supposed to do. And then the same thing outside of work in my personal life is I just felt real purpose this week. And this is what I want to do. And one of the things I've decided to do is the decision I made was before I went to Jamaica is I'm not going to ski this year again. I did this a number of years ago where I just took the winter off, and I decided, I want to work on music. I've been sharing little bits of this about inspiration, and I'm going to take some action on it, which is, and I'm not saying that inside my head, I want to say, like you're talking about, Brian, like, okay, every Friday I'm going to do this. No, you know what? I don't know what I'm going to do.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was kind of getting at with Jen, was like something like this, like, finding something to where if you don't do it, you are the only one who's really affected by it. Like nobody, that way you can forgive yourself for it,
Yeah. And what was really funny was today I went to work and I really felt like I just didn't have enough weekend. And the reason I felt like I didn't have enough weekend is I was, as much as I took time, I had some fun, I felt like I was doing. I didn't feel like I was being lazy. I didn't feel like I was, wasting my weekend. It wasn't like I didn't have enough weekend because I wasted it away. I said I didn't have enough weekend because I wanted to do more. And that felt really good.
Yeah, that's
it was good to be in that place, and so
much better. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and I had a little bit of a scare one night where something was bothering him, and he was not acting himself. And boy, that he gets me. Oh man, I was just like, I woke up in the middle of the night, and luckily it was already it was Thursday night, so I didn't have to do anything the next day, which is fine. And I stayed up for a long time with him until he just kind of calmed down. I don't know what it was. It was anxiety or physical something or other. I debated taking him to the vet on Friday, but I didn't. But it really, like talking about like that people, have their kids and stuff. It's like that dog is going to be the end of me at one point. Like,
yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
My emotions, like, whoa.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not even about, and yes, I have a lot of fear with animals because they can't tell you what's wrong.
Yeah.
And so it's easy to feel guilty about like, oh, if I'd only, weeks before or this or that. But it's always a reminder to me that is one of my big emotional crutches. And the second one, which should be more larger than this, but it's just different. It's my dad. I'm going to get to go home for Thanksgiving. I've really felt that he's not doing well.
Yeah.
He's it's not like anything's going to happen tomorrow, but he's having, let's just say, episodes.
Yeah.
Where things get really bad for him. And even talking to Bill and Martha, they had noticed it themselves too. And so I've had this real strong feeling of like, it's kind of like homesickness where I need to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not like I need to do anything. I just need to be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I called my mom on the way home on Sunday and I said, okay, because Sharon's got a dog sitting gig and she was like, I'll be fine, go ahead and go home. And I have, I'll have enough time off that I can at least take a day. So I'm going to at least go from Wednesday to Saturday. And I'm really looking forward to it. I need it. Again, it's not so much about, it's just, I just need to be there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just need to touch home.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially in this kind of scenario, like you just, it's one of those that you have to go do it, because if you don't and something were to happen, you'll never live with yourself.
And the guilt and
Yep.
And at least with Jax, I can show him lots of love every day, which is what I did. I had that moment of a little bit of fear, and it's like, and I was listening to another friend's podcast his cat's getting way up there in age, and he's just like, I just get to cuddle with him and hang out with him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know what? That's the right attitude.
Yep.
I get to spend every day with this little fuzzy dude.
Yep.
And be happy.
I'll tell you, that was one of the hardest things, when I was told that, my dad's cancer was terminal, was that he's going to die. And I mean, we know that anyway, but now it's like, okay, he's going to die within a year, basically, is what we're told, so, I started, like, initially my brain was counting the days down. And then I was like, what do you like, I can't do this. Like, I'm going to make myself insane doing this. And realistically, it's like, this is no different than any other day. He could have died today anyway, so all I did from that point on was focus on, like, how can I make him comfortable? How can I make him happy? Getting all I could get out of that time, and basically, because it's, the time is short. So, and same with, the cat that I had, I mean, I had her for 23 years, a long time. And as she aged, it was constantly like, I know she's got not a lot of time left, because this is an old cat, so I did the same thing. It was like, just make her comfortable and happy, and I'm not going to I can't worry about the rest of it, because it's, it's just going to happen when it's going to happen. I can't stop it, and it just helped me cope with it a whole lot better, because in both situations, looking back, I know I did everything I could do,
Yep.
And that is, I don't know, that I'm trying to think how to word this, but like, that's a gift you can give yourself that is like, there's no price you can put on that. It is so, because I can't imagine if I had ignored things or been mean to my dad or fought with him, or, you know what I mean? Like, ignored him, any of that stuff. It's like, I would feel like just horrible forever. Like, that would probably never go away for me. So I'm, and like you said, all you can do at this point is spoil the hell out of Jax and give him the best life you can, which I know you do. So,
Yeah, and I think this is a great segue into a little, we got a small topic for tonight.
Yeah.
Which is about taking positive steps every day.
Yeah.
And for whatever's going on in your life. And so a friend of mine sent me these handwritten pages, and it was a 31-day mental health challenge. And I asked immediately if I could share it, because it was unbelievable. What I loved about it was handwritten and in different colors.
Yeah.
And every day is a different activity. Like, I'm just going to read a couple here. One was, oh boy, glasses. What are your top 3 intentions for each day? How can you achieve them? So that was day 4. And so day 5, try guided meditation. Extra points for something I can't remember. Oh, I didn't catch all of that. But 6, work on skills you have neglected or that have grown rusty, right? And so, and what I loved about it the most is that it was handwritten.
Yeah.
It wasn't just something, it's not an app.
Yeah.
It's not something, that on the internet. Now, maybe that's where it came. I didn't ask where it came from.
Mm-hmm.
I just love the idea. And any of us can custom make this today for what we're going through right now. And so I did a quick search, and we're going to put this into the show notes. And one of them was really cool. It was a set of memes, and like it said, mental wellness, day 8. How do you make things harder for yourself, and how can you rein that in? Okay, so there's some writing that can be done right there. Mental wellness, day 9. Practice self-care and pamper yourself today. What's your self-care? So I like this is like, it's a question you can ask yourself in the morning. You can do some writing on it, set an intention, and then go through it, and then check back in on it at the end of the day and maybe do some more writing if journaling is your thing. If journaling's not your thing, maybe record it.
Yeah.
One thing that's great about all of our devices, we have these voice memos.
Yep.
And it's a way for you to say these things out loud, and then I will, like for my own writing, I will often go back through and listen to it. And some people may be more comfortable with something that's in an audio format. One of the ones here, mental wellness, day 14, create sacred space for yourself, seek comfort. Okay, well, what does that mean? Okay, well, maybe that one requires you to do a little research.
Yeah. Or
Right?
really, the cool part about that is that really, even after doing research to get kind of the gist of that, it really can mean a different thing to each person. Maybe for you, Henno, maybe it's you know what, I'm going to create a place where I feel creative for music, like where I feel comfortable writing or whatever. And maybe for me, it would be, drawing or reading or something. And, and same for Jen, it could be, reading or maybe it's, whatever it is, sitting and playing with your dogs. Maybe it's a space where you do that without distraction kind of a thing, So I like the idea that I like the vagueness in it because it allows you to customize it.
Yep, I love that, and that's what I loved about what I saw was that I don't know if it was exactly the same, if it's what was or if it was custom made, but I like the idea that you can custom make your own challenge. And I happened to just ended up on Pinterest, and there were 50 ways to practice self-care, 30 days of self-improvement, 30-day writing challenge, 20-day writing challenge, 30-day declutter challenge. There are all these things that I think, what a great way to either kickstart, like right now, change of season. Maybe you've had something happen in your life and you need something to just kind of get a little boost. For me, it was just kind of getting my head, shifting my my outlook on life a little bit, getting myself right-sized. I think this is a great way to set a goal for yourself. It could be a week. It could be longer. It doesn't really matter. It could be if it was just about I could do one right now for Jax.
Yeah.
For the next 10 days, something I can do every day. And I like the idea of having it all written out beforehand. Because to me, that's really putting some intention into it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. When you handwrite something, it really shows just that you're in this, you're committed to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. Cause even if this was like I'm looking at this list right now and there's a part at the bottom of it, you easily could just print that out, and that's fine too, really. If that's what works for you, that's fine too. But I think the idea of, writing it and out yourself is, I think, like you were saying, Henno, when you can use different colors, you can make this fun for yourself if you want to. The one on here is, where is it? Talks about, there it is, journal, but make it fun. Glitter pen, stickers, washi tape, embrace cuteness. You could do the same thing with your list here. Really just if you want to write it out with glitter pens, have fun, do it, whatever, and whatever helps you with it, That way also when you look at it, like if it's not just here it is in black ink, you're black and white, it's like by putting colors and stuff with it, that can evoke emotion in you, like pick your favorite color and write it all out or whatever, and, put stickers on it or draw or whatever you want to do, and like I said, I think when you look at it, then this becomes overall, like it's a positive moment every time you look at it type of thing too, because that's the goal of it.
Like the podcast you're talking about depression is hilarious.
Yeah.
Right? Is that what it's right?
Hilarious World of Depression.
Yeah. The Hilarious World of Depression, that's it. Yeah. Like, I think that's what they're talking about here.
Yeah.
It's like Mental Wellness Day 30. Write a letter to your mental health and do it in crayon.
Awesome.
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, and that's, that's why I brought it up 2 weeks ago. It's like, enjoy life. We all know, I think we can pretty much accept what's difficult and what our challenges are. Try to have some fun with it at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I like a lot of these things. And here's one that I thought was interesting. That you want to talk about a way of customizing one. Here's a great example, I think. Number 2 is create an emergency music playlist for times when you need some love and comfort, right? That's cool because not only could that be a completely rotating, refreshed list, but you could also, instead of doing it this way, you could seriously kind of hit 2 birds with 1 stone here. And how about create an emergency playlist for someone else that you think will love and comfort them? Right?
Mm-hmm.
There you go. Like,
when was the last time you made a mixtape?
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Basically
Yeah.
what you're doing.
Yep. And this would be one to where you're like, hey, I think this is I think you would enjoy this, because that shows someone else. First of all, it shows mindfulness because you're thinking of someone else. You're out of your own head because you're thinking about somebody else and you're doing good. You're helping someone and maybe giving a gift that could really help someone when they're in a bad way, Yep. So like I said, I think that's just a good example of how this easily could be turned, and yet it still will improve your mental health because when you send that playlist or whatever to someone else, generally people love getting music lists from people, like so many Twitter rooms I've been part of, or I see it just on the timelines and stuff where people are like, hey, send me a song you like or whatever, or send me an album that I should listen to, and people are always, if you look at those posts, they tend to get tons of responses. Because everybody's got music that they're passionate about. It's one of the music and food seem to be 2 of the things that everybody has a strong opinion about. Like we all love foods, we all love music, and we also love to share and talk about them. So it's a perfect time to bond with someone, as well as, like I said, you can feel helpful. It can help with your self-worth, type of a thing. Because if somebody's like, wow, this really helped me, or when they do use it and they tell you, hey, I listened to that playlist you gave me the other day and it really helped, you're going to feel great in that situation too. So, yeah.
I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of really good ones on here. And I also like this one site at the top. It's got other, like, self-care for breakups and Breathe, the anxiety workbook, and, different stuff like that. And I know, like you said, Heno, there's tons of this stuff on Pinterest, I'm sure. It's one of those things that I wish stuff like this would make its way around Instagram more than it does. you know?
Yeah.
Like, so much of it on Instagram's more of a just like, one-off kind of a thing. But I think it's kind of I was actually thinking about this and I was like, maybe I'll take one of these and maybe I'll put it on Instagram, kind of do it once a day, and the stuff that's shareable, maybe I'll share on there, because I think that'd be kind of fun to do, and I'm sure it'll probably encourage some other people to do it too. So, yeah.
Great. Yeah.
Yep. Good topic.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Are we good?
Fun chat.
Yeah, it's short but sweet, but awesome.
Yeah, and like Heno said, the links to these that we're talking about will be in the show notes. So.
All right. So, folks, you know what time it is. If you'd like to continue the conversation with us, you know what to do. You can reach us at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com is our website. Thecrazylifepodcast@outlook.com is our email address. You can reach me, easiest way is on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. That's Jen with the G. You can also hear more from me if you'd like by checking out ShakeTheSheets.com. That's our website for our podcast, Shake the Sheets. It's a pop culture talk podcast. With that, Henno, how can they reach you?
You can find me on Twitter at Ida Henno, or just look up L Hummingbird. It's my new Twitter handle. If you want to know where that came from, you can listen to the latest episode of Dark Angels and Pretty Freaks, my friends Neil and Annalise, their podcast, where they explain why I am the hummingbird. And it's pretty accurate.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yep.
And we'll have a new Moving the Needle podcast up this week where we discuss about not messing with some Zohan guy.
Nice.
I can't wait to hear someone defend that movie.
You know, they actually turned me. I hate to say it.
I can't wait. I'm very interested to listen to this. That's part of the reason why I love that show so much is, you know, sometimes when somebody's got one of those opinions that's the, you know, contrary to popular take, and, you know, by the end you're kind of like, you know.
Yeah.
So, cool. Yeah. You can find me on Twitter at Stunami. You can find my other podcast at @salty_language. You'd think after 8 years I'd get that right, you know, at @salty_language or saltylanguage.com. That show is not safe for work, so please be careful, you know, when you're listening to it. And you can find this show also on Twitter at The Crazy Life Pod, where I post when new episodes go up. Although you shouldn't need that because hopefully you're subscribed already. And if not, please rate, review, and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. Or, you know, share with your friends and all that kind of stuff. The show can be found on Facebook at facebook.com/group/crazylifepodcast. We're a part of the Tangent Bound Network and the Danger Entertainment Network, which can be found at dangerentertainment.net. I think that's all the links, right? Yeah, it seems right. If you didn't know already, we're on Spotify, so if you want to listen to us over there, you can just type in The Crazy Life, and yeah, should be able to find it, no problem. As usual, you know, recommend if you need help, please reach out to somebody, friends, group, online crisis thing, you know, forums that are out there. Just please reach out to someone and try not to be alone if you're in a dark place. There's tons of people out there willing to help. You just, you know, you do have to ask. And I know it's hard, but trust me, it's worth it. And then, of course, you know, I mentioned, forgot what I was going to say. You know, try to be nice to people, you know, and, you know, try to give people the benefit of the doubt. You know, actually, I was listening to Malcolm Gladwell put up a podcast recently where he actually was on Oprah's podcast, and they're talking about his new book called Talking to Strangers. And he talks about how a lot of people, like, we form an opinion on somebody, like, before we ever talk to them and whatnot, and how a lot of times, like, we're just not giving people the benefit of the doubt, you know, and how really that should change. And I thought it was a really good talk. And it's a really good point. You know, when you walk up to somebody, try to be try not to be judgmental as best you can. I know it's really tough because we're kind of trained to be that way. But, you know, you can break training. So, you know, so just try to be nice and give people the benefit of the doubt, you know, and yeah, it puts you out there potentially to, you know, get your feelings hurt or whatever. But the problem is prejudging people a lot of times will stop you from meeting some really incredible people. So, you know, let's try less of that. And judgment, we just less of that garbage. You know, considering how similar so many of us really are, there's really no reason for us to be so, you know, jerky to each other. So try to be nice to others and do something nice for somebody else, and also do something nice for yourself this week. You know, do this list, do a gratitude list, or, you know, just be kind. Let yourself have a day off. And lastly, you know, just remember that doing nothing is self-care, and it's okay. So, you know, let yourself have a Sunday of watching football, cramming food in your face, and not beat yourself up for it, you know.
Yeah. Absolutely. And with that, everybody, go out there, have the best week you possibly can have, and don't forget, wiggle your toes.